6 years before Nelson Mandela was released from prison, an anti-apartheid activist named Randall Robinson staged a sit-in in front of the South African embassy here. He was arrested, but the protests continued and public outrage against apartheid began to grow. In 2012, Randall Robinson was honored by the South African government for his efforts to end apartheid. He joins us this morning from his home on St. Kitts. Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for being with us. Of course, Nelson Mandela is revered in this country now, but in those days, that was not the case at all. Take us back to those days when you organized those sit-ins and tell us about that.
We were trying to build an environment, an atmosphere, in which to remove the underpinning that the United States had been providing to South Africa in investments, in loans, computer technology, in military assistance of one kind or another. We were the legs on which apartheid stood, together with other industrialized Western nations. And so we thought our role was to remove that, that underpinning. And so when we went to the embassy and met with Ambassador Faure, we told him we wouldn't leave until Nelson Mandela had been released from prison. At the time, few Americans knew much about Nelson Mandela, and we thought we had to build a big public story, more information in America that would inform Americans about the role that our country had been playing. The ambassador had us arrested, and that was followed by 5,000 Americans who came to the embassy over the next year every day to be arrested. And we joined that with the work we were doing with the Congress. In the Senate, Senator Edward Kennedy played a major role. In the House, William H. Gray III played a major role, and we would meet on a regular basis in Senator Kennedy's office to plan the legislation that we would try to power through the Congress on the winds of these demonstrations that continued to grow, and across the country they grew. And in the last analysis, the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act was passed over the veto of President Ronald Reagan.
After going through all of that, how did you feel the day that Nelson Mandela walked out of that prison? Did you really, when you were working for this, ever really think in your heart of hearts that this might actually happen?
We thought it could happen, but we also thought that it was possible that a new generation of activists would have to take up what we had begun. Year before last, my wife and I went to South Africa to receive the honors on the occasion of the country's Freedom Day, and to celebrate the first democratic elections in South Africa. And we were in our hotel looking over at the ceremonies in a park, and flying over us were 11 jets roaring, fighter jets roaring above our heads, fanning out in vapor trails the colors of the South African flag. And the jets were flown by black South African women. Symbolically, that caused us much celebration in our hotel. And since apartheid ended, 2 million homes have been, millions of homes have been built, millions of homes have been electrified in South Africa. Black family salaries have virtually tripled in the country. And so Nelson Mandela ushered in a dramatically different kind of South Africa. And we thought that it was our responsibility to play a small part in that struggle, because our country was a major part of the black community's problem in South Africa. We were on the wrong side of the issue and on the wrong side of history.
It is a story that has not yet ended and a story that goes on. Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.